Welcome and thank you for joining us today for our first NCTAF Good Teaching Summit. Today we are focused on strategies to foster teaching success. My name is Melinda George and I am the President of the National Commission on Teaching in America's Future, or as we call it, NCTAF. We are delighted that you could all join us today for what promises to be a truly collaborative look at good teaching and the conditions that are needed to support good teaching. This is an exciting year for NCTAF. We turned 20 this year, which we're pretty excited about. For the past 20 years, the Commission has focused on what matters most, and that is ensuring that every student has access to quality and caring teachers in schools organized for success. Our history is as an organization that conducts research, makes recommendations, and objectively shares best practices of quality teaching, while also lending our national voice to bring about positive change for the teaching profession. Earlier this year, the NCTAF Commission determined that the time is now for a national investigation and celebration of the teaching profession, and a call to action to support teaching to improve learning for every student. The Commission asked that we do this in three important ways. First, they want it to be collaborative. Second, positive. And third, action-oriented. In the coming weeks and months, NCTAF will put forth a vision of good teaching. We will then count on our partners, current and future, to help contribute to that definition. Then begins the work of identifying the conditions that are needed to support good teaching. A basis for our work will be grounded in the principles of deeper learning. Deeper learning environments are those in which students are using their knowledge and skills in a way that prepares them for real life, college, and career readiness. Many of you are familiar with the term deeper learning, but what does it look like when it is put into practice? And importantly, what are the conditions that need to be in place for a teacher to be able to facilitate learning so that students can achieve the 6 principles of deeper learning? Understanding what we want for students, helping teachers to transform their teaching, and putting in place the conditions for teachers to help students achieve success are critical factors for the Commission as we convene, research, promote best practices, and inspire action over the coming months. Creating the conditions for good teaching, schools organized for success, has been an emphasis for NCTAF since the Commission released its first report, What Matters Most. These conditions were the impetus for the creation of NCTAF's Learning Studios, a reason that you all are here today and that we're going to hear some more about as the day goes on. After years of research around the conditions and strategies to support and foster good teaching, we created Learning Studios as a demonstration project to test whether these conditions would make a difference in teaching and learning. After 6 years of working with school districts in Maryland, New Hampshire, and Virginia, we have learned a lot, and we are excited to share at the national level alongside our partners organizations who are doing very complementary work, more information about these strategies in the hopes that they will be widely adopted and combined in learning environments across the country to support good teaching and learning. One factor that has been consistent in our work and in our learning studios is the critical need for collaboration in teaching. Earlier this summer, NCTAF was pleased to partner with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, for the United States release of the Teaching and Learning International Survey, or TALIS. As I reviewed the TALIS data, I was really pleased to see a positive picture emerging across TALIS countries, and particularly among American teachers, about their satisfaction and confidence levels. However, TALIS also provided us with an understanding of time and time constraints for American teachers and the demands on their time. The TALIS found that U.S. teachers spend more time teaching than any other country, about 27 hours per week or 44% of their time. Now, While on the surface, this may sound reasonable, when you compare the U.S. to other high-performing countries, like Finland, their teachers have significantly more time for collaborating with their peers and engaging in teamwork, and their students are performing better. Since its founding, NCTAF has identified collaboration as critical to schools organized for success and to the ability of teachers to be successful. The desire for and power of collaboration was evident throughout the TALIS findings, and yet in the United States, teaching is still largely reported as an independent profession. This seems to be an area where improvement is being made and could be made and should be made. The NCTAF Commission has long promoted the need for collaborative working environment in schools, whether that plays out as teachers with their peers, teachers and school leaders, or all of the above, and teachers and students. This is a critical element in organizing schools for success, and we need more models, case studies, and examples of where and how collaboration is making a difference. As you are listening to today's presentations and panel discussions, think about your definition of good teaching. What factors do you want to be sure that the Commission includes? What are the conditions under which you think that good teaching can occur? And let us know those. Join in the conversation today and going forward. We will be using Twitter with the hashtag #GoodTeaching. We encourage all of you to Twitter out as we go. And please be sure to mention @NCTAF so that we can make sure that the ideas and things that you feel are really important are getting back to us and to the Commission. This is what's critical, is for us all to come together and really have this conversation about good teaching and how we move American schools, and importantly, every student forward. It's now my pleasure to introduce Lillian Lowery, Maryland State Superintendent of Schools. I'm thrilled to make this introduction because not only do I get to introduce her as Maryland State Superintendent of Schools, but this is the first time that I get to say, and a brand new NCTAF commissioner. Lillian joined the commission this summer, and we are so thrilled to have you. This summer, my colleague Elizabeth Foster and I got to go up and meet with Lillian, and we got to spend some one-on-one time with her. And I have to tell you, we both walked away saying, this is so exciting. She is dedicated, passionate, smart, and she really uses the whole idea of collaboration at the state level to make things happen. And so for us, she's a perfect addition to the NCTAF Commission, and we're so glad you're here. Superintendent Lowery has been the state superintendent in Maryland since 2012. Before that, she was the Secretary of Education in the state of Delaware. In both states, she has focused on teacher leadership and teacher and leader capacity and effectiveness. She has also been a district superintendent, an assistant district superintendent, an administrator, and a middle and high school English teacher. Dr. Lowery, we are so thrilled that you are here with us today. Please join me in welcoming her to the podium.
Good morning. I came in last night because I know about the rush hour traffic around the DC metropolitan area. It is such an honor to be here. I am so honored to be a commissioner, and I too left the meeting with Melinda feeling really pleased that I had become a commissioner, because I need to always be in search of learning from others, and so this network of friends will certainly help benefit the work in Maryland. Welcome to the Good Teaching Summit. Thank you for making time in your busy lives to join us here today. Your attendance today speaks volumes about your interests in continuous improvement for students and the teachers and leaders who touch their lives in schools each day. A special thank you to Melinda George, the president of NCTAF, for inviting me to kick off this terrific event. The idea of good teaching resonates with me. I had the privilege of being a classroom teacher for over 15 years. So now with all the other things that Melinda says, you're counting the dates. Yeah, I'm kind of old. It was as a classroom teacher that I learned the essence of the term lifelong learning, because as I facilitated knowledge acquisition in middle and high school English language arts classrooms, my students taught me how to be an effective teacher in several ways. The most salient lesson was all about relationships. My students and I established wonderful relationships. Yes, we liked each other most days. But more importantly, we respected each other at all times. My students allowed me, from a new teacher to a veteran teacher, to take risks and to try new things. The permission for me to take risks with them afforded them the opportunity to do likewise, to take thoughtful risks and learn something new, not only about the content, but also about themselves. A collaborative teacher-student relationship, as we all know, is vital in the teaching and learning environment. Yet, the leaders who are charged with creating these beneficial learning environments make a profound difference. And I learned that lesson well as a high school principal. As a principal, I depended on teacher and student leaders to be the content expert advisors and to be the guides in how to build school climates that promoted the best in everyone. I risked leading from behind when my time to follow was in the best interest for the path forward. To this day, whenever I need inspiration or I need to know if we're headed in the right direction, I want to hear from our teachers and leaders in the field. They remind me how important it is to seek engagement and collaboration. That is one of the reasons I meet with the Maryland's Teachers of the Year once a month as an advisory group throughout the year. And if you know Teachers of the Year, they're very committed and passionate, and they tell it like it is. They provide me with realistic and honest assessments as to how effective the policies that we are implementing are helpful in improving teaching and learning. But time and time again, the discussions always come back to relationships. Our National Teacher of the Year, Sean McComb, our National Teacher of the Year, who also happens to be a Maryland teacher from Baltimore County, said the following: "My teaching is built on the belief that relationships and engagement can turn challenges into opportunity for excellence for all students. As we embrace the truth, we create citizens who can live the American dream." For me, Sean's words frames the conversations today. In Maryland and in many other states, our teachers are working in a time of transition, and the pace of progress is swift. Our state has collaboratively moved into full implementation of higher academic standards, better state assessments, and more meaningful evaluations anchored by continuous support for teachers and school leaders. As our Maryland Education Association President Betty Weller reminds me, we're doing all three and at the same time. Teachers are being asked to do things differently and to continue learning. While Betty often reminds me that sometimes we must agree to disagree, we work together with our educators and parents, teachers associations to support each other. As a result, we are achieving the results that we are seeking. I learned early on that sustainable change will not happen through top-down directives, but rather through collaboration with our many partners in local school systems, state organizations, and national groups like NCTAF. None of us can do this alone. Respecting the power of collaboration, my staff and I meet regularly in person. When I came on board at both DOE in Delaware and now in Maryland, what I said to my staff is, if I walk through this building and you're in your office, we have a problem. I need for you, with all of this aggressive change going on, to be in the field so that people see that we are partners, that we are not sitting in a bureaucratic environment dictating, but that we're right there with them step by step. So that's where we spend a lot of our time, in person, with teachers, principals, local superintendents, and representatives from local boards of education. We share information and discuss how we might strengthen instruction for our students. Ongoing collaboration is the only sustainable way to make sure that this work outlives all of us. If there's not buy-in from the people that are responsible for this work in the field every day, when the leader goes away, the work goes away, which is why many of our educators become somewhat cynical. Maryland, like a majority of states, adopted the Common Core state standards, and we joined one of the consortia. We joined the consortium Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers, known as PARC, to develop better assessments, not more testing. And let me reemphasize that. We joined these consortia, states who didn't join the consortia but who are going to next generation tests, did that so that we could respond to the voice from the field that we need better assessments to give teachers information around professional development and learning and to help us target what we do for our students. We are not supporting more testing, better testing. We did what many states have done. We began working directly with our local education agencies to prepare for implementation. We were talking when I first came in about PBS, and had the pleasure of staffing him when she was at PBS, and I used one of his quotes. And Mr. Blanchard said, "None of us is as smart as all of us." And of course, he's right. Not one of us alone has all the answers. We need the expertise of everyone who touches our schools in any way to improve learning. That is why today's event is so important. We have the opportunity to share with and hear from practitioners at all levels, and of course some of them will be from Maryland, at all levels of the system about their own strategies for maintaining the relationships that help their teachers and students achieve high standards. That is why in Maryland we started the transition to more rigor by actually bringing teams of teachers together from every school in the state for intensive discussion, collaboration, and training 3 years before formal implementation of the new standards. These teachers gave us a sense of direction in providing support. Master teachers from local school systems led many of the sessions during our summer Educator Effectiveness Academies. More than 7,000 teachers took part in the academies during the summers of 2011, 2012, and 2013, and then they were to return to their schools to spearhead the implementation. Through our Race to the Top grant, we provided stipends to these teachers. However, this summer, we had run out of money, yet thousands more teachers returned for additional training on a volunteer basis. And that, to me, is a credit to staff at the department, because if the information and the inclusive way of doing this work wasn't helpful, these teachers wouldn't have shown up. This spring, the new PARC assessments will be fully implemented in all Maryland schools. Again, we provided training in nearly every school, and we field tested the PARC assessment in every single school in our state except 7, and we couldn't there because they are school improvement grant schools, and they had to take the test because we had to report the data. But every school, we even from those 7 schools had folks go to other schools so that they could see what it felt like, what it looked like, and give us feedback. With the help of a national nonprofit education superhighway, we offered every school the opportunity to test its internet bandwidth. Big push of the governor and the General Assembly on making sure that they had what they needed for these online tests. We are helping school systems find opportunities to add technology. And as we all know who are in the consortia, the first 3 years will have a paper or pencil option if needed, where technology is not fully embedded in the school environment. So we are getting ready to go further, faster. Now, perhaps the most important work that we're doing, and the work about which we hear the most, is the teacher-principal evaluation. The teacher-principal evaluation can provide meaningful opportunity for professional growth, close persistent achievement gaps, and accelerate growth for all students. And we are having that conversation more in Maryland. We certainly have to focus on closing the achievement gap for our underperforming and at-risk students. But when we compare ourselves through OECD to other countries, I think the 3 states were Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Florida. Even our highest performing children are not performing as well as high-performing students in other countries. So this isn't just about closing the achievement gap for our most challenged students, but making sure that we are competitive globally among all of our students. The major factor in our state's evaluation framework is student learning objectives. And the student learning objectives are key factors agreed upon by teachers and supervisors. Now, there's been a lot of conversation about the use of state assessments, especially as we're making a transition to new assessments. We hear that, we get it, and we've worked very closely with Secretary Duncan. He gets that, he hears it, and we're trying to be thoughtful about how we infuse the state assessments, but that still doesn't back us away from quantitative measures. And why we are preparing ourselves to set baselines for the new assessments, we're working hand in glove with our teachers to look at these student learning objectives because they own that. And it's not just about English language arts and mathematics. Every teacher has student learning objectives for targeted groups of students in their class, whether it's the band teacher, the art teacher, the career and technical education teacher, everyone is included. And these student learning objectives emerge from years of discussion with local superintendents, union leadership, college and university professors, and other stakeholders. Maryland has become a front runner in this emerging work with the help of national expert Bill Slotnick from the Community Training and Assistance Center through WestEd. Bill Slotnick has been working on student learning objectives for over 20 years, and he has come into our state to help us build a common language, common rubrics, and common methods of implementation so that we across the state can target our resources most effectively. In fact, the Maryland State Department of Education joined the State Board of Education to sign a memorandum of understanding with our major education leadership organizations to codify our commitments to successfully implementing the student learning objectives in every classroom and to work together to refine the process. So in addition to the Maryland State Department of Education and the State Board, signatories are Maryland State Education Association, an affiliate of NEA, the Baltimore Teachers Union, the affiliate of AFT, Public Schools Superintendents Association, the Maryland Association of Primary School Administrators, and the Maryland Association of Secondary Administrators, and of course, their local boards of education. It was really momentous, and I think finally the teachers in the field took a deep breath and said, okay, now they're working together. We found something on which we can all agree and move forward. We also launched, as I talked about earlier, Leadership Matters. In meeting with my Teachers of the Year, one of the meetings, a teacher pulled out a card, and she said, oh, I have some questions from my school. And I said, oh, so what's happening? Your colleagues know that you're meeting with the state superintendent, so they're sending questions for you to ask me. She said, no, this is from my principal. And I was horrified. And I said, your principal? He wanted me to ask you, is it really true? And I left and went back to staff and said, we have a problem. When we have the leaders in the school having to glean information from the folks they're supposed to be leading, not good. And so we have launched 2 new programs to bolster principal development after hearing from our teachers that they had more information than their school leaders did. With the help from our partners at WestEd, we launched our first Governors Promising Principals Academy and Principal Leadership pipeline to support current and aspiring school leaders. In the spirit of collaboration and bringing the right conditions for teaching and learning success to Maryland, I am also so pleased that Maryland has been home to 25 NCTAF STEM learning studios in 5 districts. The cross-disciplinary teams of teachers and outside experts have brought real-world, problem-based learning to hundreds of middle school and high school students, and the findings have been impressive. 78% of the teachers reported that their content and or instructional methods were different from methods used in their traditional teaching. So now our students won't be bored, and they can understand what concept and theory has to do with practical application. 90% of the teachers reported that compared to their overall teaching, their Learning Studios projects had far more real-world applications. 67, these two last ones are really profound. 67% of the students get new ideas about what a scientist does. 51% of students got new ideas about what science is. We cannot make assumptions. In closing, educational reform is not a new concept, and we all know that it is not easy, but the work underway is building the foundation for our